Hi there. So in this video, I'll show you how to build a no-code AI agent that can browse the web completely autonomously and fill out contact forms, resolve CAPTCHAs, apply to jobs using your resume, fill out government forms, and even buy products for you, all by just sending a quick voice message on WhatsApp. Now, I know everyone's talking about OpenAI's Agent Operator launch, and it definitely looks impressive and has lots of potential, but there are a few downsides to it right now. First of all, it only works well with the websites they trained their agent on, like Airbnb and OpenTable. Secondly, it can't work autonomously yet, right? It needs constant confirmation, and therefore it's not very practical for most use cases yet. And lastly, we can't use it in the API yet. Now, the system I'll show you today works completely autonomously and can be used to automate high volume tasks like lead generation through contact forms, manual form filling, mass job applying, and much more. I've built this system without code using N8N and Skyvern, which is the browsing agent. And in this video, I'll give you a demo and a full step-by-step breakdown, and the template will be available in my community. If you don't know me yet, I'm Ben. I've been building and selling AI agents since 2023. I also run a community with over 1,000 founders, professionals, and AI builders. And if you're a business looking to adopt AI into your business, you can also book us in for a free call in the description below. I'll first show you a demo, then I'll give you an overview of the setup in N8N and in Skyvern, which is the browsing agent. And then I'll give you a more detailed step-by-step breakdown at the end of this video if you want to build or replicate something like this yourself. Also, the template will be available in my community. Now, just as a disclaimer, we are still early with browser agents, right? Generally, they are, first of all, quite slow. Second of all, they're quite expensive at the moment, but as we can all see, these language models get cheaper by the week almost. And thirdly, they're not 100% reliable just yet. But there are already businesses using browser agents for specific use cases. And I think we'll see a lot of interesting use cases coming up in the upcoming months and years, especially because now with these browser agents, we can actually start automating dynamic workflow automations on softwares and websites that do not have APIs. But I think at least in the short to midterm, it's going to be really important that we put a lot of guardrails on these agents. And that's something that Skyvern is trying to do, which I'm going to show you in a second. And also what I think is going to be very interesting is combining traditional workflow automation with browser agent APIs, right? Where we basically use traditional APIs or normal APIs and logic-based automations and adding in browser agent APIs for the part of the process where we want to automate a workflow on a website that doesn't have an API, for example. And that's sort of a system that I try to create here today. So let me show you an example. So we can start, for example, with the job applying. So this agent can actually, first of all, find jobs for me and then actually apply to the jobs by filling out the job form. All right, so I can tell my agent something like this. Hi there, please help me find UI UX designer jobs and help me apply to them. Now, first, my agent is going to ask me some more information, right, to be able to apply to these jobs. Okay, I can help with that. To start, could you please provide me with a link to your resume? Ideally, it should be a Google Drive link and it should be a PDF. Okay, so I'll share my really old CV. And it's actually going to use that CV, right, to upload it if they ask for it, but also to extract data to be able to fill out the form. Thanks. Just to confirm, is your name and phone number included in the resume? Yes, but just to confirm, it's Ben van Spurndel. Thanks, Ben. Do you have any links to your portfolio or social media profiles, such as LinkedIn or Behance, that you'd like to include with your application? So yes, my LinkedIn is. So again, it's going to use that, right? Whenever they ask for those, my LinkedIn and then maybe my portfolio, just at my website is. Okay, great. And are you legally authorized to work in any specific countries without needing sponsorships? Yeah, I'm legally allowed to work in the US, in Europe, and in Brazil. Understood. What are your compensation expectations? Okay, I'm looking for a job which pays more than 50,000 USD annually. How many jobs would you like to apply to? Now, these browser agents take a while, so for demo purposes, I keep it short. For now, only apply to 3 jobs, please. Okay, Ben, just to confirm, you'd like me to apply to 3 UI UX designer jobs, your resume link, including your name, phone number, LinkedIn profile, portfolio link. Um, yes, yes, that is all correct. Please go ahead and apply to jobs. So now my agent is actually going to call the browser agent, right? He's going to fill him in with all the information that I gave him to actually start, first of all, finding jobs and then applying to them. So it started. Now, again, this is literally takes 3 or 4 minutes per job. So in the meantime, I'll just show you the other use cases. And then at the end, because when they finish, we can actually see the recording of what they did. So let me first show you the other use cases and then we can check the recordings after. So I can also, of course, use this agent to do, for example, outreach, right? Because it can fill out contact forms of websites. So, for example, I could say, please help me do outreach for my lead generation agency to plumbers in Miami. Now, again, you will need some extra information to start doing it. Okay, I can help with that. To start, what's your full name? Again, it's going to use that in the contact form, right? Email address and phone number. Now, what kind of message or request would you like to send, right? So what should I include? Please help me write a message. Basically, we're offering lead gen services through cold email, specialized in for plumbers. Very random example, but okay, here's a draft message. Hi, I'm reaching out from we specialize in generating high quality leads for plumbers through targeted cold email campaigns. I noticed you're based in Miami and I believe our services. Would you be open to quick chat? How does that? That sounds great. The name of my agency is Ben AI. Okay, I've updated message. Yeah. Now that I have your full name, would you like me to proceed with reaching out to plumbers? Yes, please proceed and reach out to plumbers for me. Now, again, it will send this to the browser agent who's now gonna, well, first it's gonna find plumbers, of course, and then it's gonna send it to the browser agent to fill out contact forms. Okay. All right. Now let's do one more use case because it can actually also buy stuff for you, right? On a website like Amazon, for example. Uh, so I'm not gonna provide my credit card right now. So and my login details. So just to show you for the demo, we'll just use add to cart demo, right? So I can say something like, yes, I want to buy a gift for my mom for her birthday. Can you help me find a gift? What kind of gifts? Specific. My mom likes cooking, so maybe a cooking book would be great. A cookbook. Do you have any specific type of cuisine in your mind? Uh, yes, she likes cooking desserts, especially Italian desserts. So maybe any top-rated Italian dessert cookbook would work. Okay, Italian dessert cookbook it is. Do you have any preference in the author or perhaps a specific price range? No specific author. Anything that's top rated and under $100 is good. Look for top rated Italian dessert cookbook under $100. Do you want to purchase only one book or would you like to search for any other gifts? No, buy. You can do only that one. You can go ahead. All right. So now it actually went ahead and added it to the cart, right? So let me speed up the video quickly because again, this browser agent takes a while, and then I'll show you the recordings of what it has done after. So let me check Skyvern. So you can see, I'll explain Skyvern in a second, right? But you can see it's now buying the Italian, or at least adding it to the car, because I didn't provide the credit card details, but you can see it's still running, but it has done the job application. So we can check here, because basically we get the recording as soon as it's done. So let me open full screen. So you can see it actually took 3 minutes, but here so it first found a UI UX designer job, and you can see, right, it also fulfills the salary range. And here you start seeing it first analyzing all the data it needs to fill in, right? And here you'll see it start adding in the information. So here we'll types in my name, right, my email. Now it should type in my LinkedIn profile, and it did. Right, you can see here it's uploading my actual resume, right? Right, it takes this experience from my CV. And what's your salary expectation? I actually filled it out per month too, and you can see it applied. So in this case, there was no captcha, but you can also do that. So that was the first one. Now we can see the second recording. This one was a bit faster. So UX, UI, right, compensation, again, it's good. Same thing, first analyzing the page, right, fills out the information. So took the email actually from my CV. All right, resume, are you legally authorized to work in the US? Yes. All right, filled in my portfolio to my portfolio link, right, and now it's doing the LinkedIn URL, and yeah, applied. It's pretty crazy. But as you can see, this does cost 10 cents per applying. But yeah, if you think job applying, you could apply to 100 jobs paying $10, which is quite a good deal. Now let me speed it up again so we can see this other one. So it just finished and it failed, but it's of course because I didn't provide my login info and my credit card. So let's check what it did. So actually, you can see you have an anti-scraping method here, right, with the CAPTCHA. And you can see it fills out the CAPTCHA, right, proceeds to go to the website, analyzes the website again. And you can see this one takes actually really long, 8 minutes. I don't know what it does here, but it found authentic Italian desserts, 75 traditional favorites made easy. Check the reviews, looks like. And it added it to the cart. So now you can, of course, also provide this with providing your login details and credit card, and then you can actually buy stuff. So, but you can see this one cost actually 60 cents because you pay 10 cents per screen analyzed, right? And because you had to go to multiple ones, then the costs go up pretty quickly. Now let's check the contact forms. So we got the 2 plumbing companies. So let's see. So plumbing, let's see. So name, phone number, email, and here you can see it fills out the message, right, that he came up with. I'm reaching out from Ben AI. We specialize in generating high quality leads for plumbers. And he sends the message. Let's check the other one. So he fills it out here. It's hard to see, but it's filling it out in the black boxes here. Let's see if we get a confirmation. Yeah, you can see here filled out the message. and send. Yeah, you can see the button changed color, so it was sent. Yeah, you get the idea. It's not it's still early stages, but you can see the long-term potential of this. And the cool thing is this was all done through an API call. So let me show you quickly how this is set up, and then I'll show you also in detail how Skyvern works. So I'll first give you a quick overview of how it's set up here in N8N and in Skyvern. And then later in this video, I'll show you in more detail, step by step, how this is set up. So you can see here we have our AI agent, right? And of course, I connected it to WhatsApp and also WhatsApp voice. Um, and our agent here runs on Google Gemini, right? 2.0, because it's free for now. We have the Postgres chat memory, and we have three tools, right? We have the job applying tool, we have the contact us form tool, and the product purchasing tool. Now, our agent, we've instructed, of course, to gather all the necessary information before starting to use a tool. So, for example, the job applying tool, we has a few input fields, right? The first one is the role, the type of job the user is looking for, of course. Then we have the resume link, and the additional information, right? The portfolio links, etc. So those are the input fields. And whenever the agent uses the tool, we have this workflow automation here, right? And it's pretty straightforward. All we do here in this LLM step is we generate a Google search query, right? To basically try and find relevant jobs, right? And relevant job links to apply to, right? So this model, all it does is generate a Google search query, right? And then here we have the Google SERP API that does a Google search for us, right, to find relevant jobs, right? So this will output URLs, right, and results. Then we split those URLs, and in this case, we limit it just for the demo purposes. I put that in. I don't want it to go and do 20 different jobs, but you can take this out. And then here we have a loop over items, where here, this is the API call to Skyvern, to our browser agent, right? And our workflow automation will send all the relevant information over to our browser agent, who can then actually start applying to the job and filling out the contact form, right? And it will loop over each URL and then send all the URLs back to the agent here at the end. So pretty straightforward. And of course, you don't have to set this up inside of an agent system, right? I think you could also just set up a Google Sheets, for example. Let's say you have 200 job links you want to apply to. You can just put them in a Google Sheets, right? Start the automation and let your browser agent apply to 200 jobs. And that's, I think, why it could become a very interesting use case, is combining workflow automation like this with these browser agents, because we can actually let these browser agents also find jobs, right, on Google first, right, get the URLs and then apply. But the point is, it's extremely inefficient, right? We're going to pay, first of all, a lot of money because it has to go through all of these pages. It's going to take ages for it to go through all these pages, etc., and it's less reliable. So by combining traditional workflow automation with traditional APIs and logic, and only using browser agents for the part that we can't do with traditional workflow automation, we can have a very powerful combination. And especially if we can train, which is what Skyvern does, these browser agents on specific use cases, right? So I'll get to Skyvern in a second. Let me show you very quickly the other two tools. So we have the product purchasing tool too, right? A lot simpler. And in this case, all we do is we send a prompt over, right? So that's why this one was also more expensive, because we didn't send a specific link to our browser agent. You can see in Amazon, it's first had to do the CAPTCHA, right? Then try and find the product, etc. So pretty straightforward, right? In the agent, of course, the agent creates that prompt, right, to execute the product purchasing tool, right? And then we have the last one, which is the contact us form tool. As you can see, we again have some workflow inputs, right, which our agent asks us for, right, which is the name of the person, the email, all the additional information, right, and the message, and the information about the prospects we're trying to contact, right? In this case, it was the plumbers, right? So I can show you very quickly here. It's a similar setup as a job applying tool, right? Again, this one generates the Google search query, uses the Google SERP API to do a Google search, and the URLs will be split out, and it will loop over each URL and send it to our browser agent here. Now we have one more extra step here. Actually, this is not the browser agent. This is a scraper. So we have one extra step here. We scrape the website first, and this code snippet then checks the scraped website quickly if there are input fields. Because if there are no input fields, uh, of course, our browser agent can't do anything and will be wasting money because it won't be able to do anything there. So if it doesn't find an input field, it will go this route and loop over the next URL. If it does find it, it will send it to our browser agent with, again, all the necessary information for our browser agent to actually fill it out correctly. So let me show you Skyvern quickly. So first of all, what is Skyvern? It's basically a web browsing AI agent, right? And it's actually one of the state-of-the-art web browsing agents. They recently had a benchmark study, right, on the best browser agents, right? And you can see that Skyvern 2.0, which is their new API, actually outperforms all others, including Cloud Computer Use. Now, this hasn't been compared yet to the OpenAI operator, but you can see they do a pretty good job. And I think the really interesting thing with Skyvern is, first of all, they have it available in API, right? Meaning we can add these browsing agents to our workflow automations or agents inside of N8N, Relevance AI, Make.com, etc. Second of all, they've trained these browsing agents on these specific use cases that are actually useful for many businesses, right? Like the ones like the contact forms, right? The ones I showed you, jobs, of course, invoice also, so downloading invoices from portals, which I can imagine for accountants and bigger companies can be an interesting use case as it's a very manual job. You can see you have the purchasing, of course, which becomes really interesting for, let's say, large procurement pipelines, right? A lot of companies need to literally buy hundreds or thousands of products, right? Now that can be automated with these browsing agents, and even government form filling, right? Like taxes, etc. So it's a great use case, I think, for these really high volume administrative tasks in platforms that don't have APIs. That's really where it comes down to. And the interesting thing with Skyvern is because they trained it on these specific use cases, they tend to perform pretty well on those specific use cases. And lastly, Skyvern also allows us to build our own workflows inside of these specific use cases for browser agents. So we can give these agents a little bit more guardrails for a specific use case or type of website. And I think that's really what's necessary for these browser agents, at least in the short to midterm, to actually be reliable in production, right? So I can show you very quickly. Here you have inside of the dashboard, right? You can see we have the option to create a workflow. Right now, I can show you here the job application workflow. But basically, if I click here on edit, you see we have a little bit of a workflow builder inside of Skyvern, right? So where we can actually sort of put some more logic or guidelines, guardrails into what this specific workflow should do, right? So in this job application one, for example, is if the API gets triggered, the agent first always parses the resume, right? And we can add in that variable. So it always takes that data from the resume, right? Then you have a for each loop. So it loops over all the different job URLs you send to the API. And then you can add in prompts even, right? To give it more guidelines on what his next step is, right? Apply for a job, terminate if the job is not available, fill out all of the fields as best as you can, including optional fields, fill out public burn statements if you're asked. If you don't know the answer to an optional question, leave it blank, right? So we can give it more details about that specific use case. And of course, we can adjust this for specific use cases. And you can add in even more things, right? You can see navigation blocks to give them more guidelines through prompts. We have action blocks to take specific actions, right? We have extraction blocks, so we can also, of course, scrape or get data from websites and send it back. We have validation blocks to check if it actually is on the right track, right? And now you can see there are more options here, right? Send email, PDF parser, etc. But I think it's quite interesting to play around with. Also, it's quite an interesting article if you want to learn more about how these browsing agents are actually work. You can see they actually have a planner agent, a task or execution part, and a validator to make sure that these tasks are actually being performed correctly, right? And if not, it can adjust the task through the planner, right? It's quite an interesting article. I'll make sure to also put it in a link in the description. So let me dive a little bit deeper into the N8N automation. Now, this is a little bit more of a technical build. So if you're completely new to N8N, I do have some other tutorials on N8N, and I'll be coming with lots more tutorials on N8N. which will be a bit simpler. In our community too, we do a lot of beginner courses on all of these platforms. So if you're interested, check it out. Now, first of all, I've of course connected it to WhatsApp. Now, if you don't know, you have to set up the official WhatsApp Business API to connect it to WhatsApp, right? If you want to know the full process of setting up an official WhatsApp Business API, I explain it at the end of one of my videos, which I'm going to link up here. So if you're interested, make sure to check that one out. And then if you want to connect the WhatsApp trigger, right, you'll need to add in a new credential here, right? And you have to add in a client ID and a client secret. Now, where do you find that? If you have set up your, because it's a little bit different than make.com, for example. If you've set up your WhatsApp business account and you go to your Meta account, you'd have to go to the app settings, and then you go to basic. And here you'll find the app ID and the app secret, which are the two values you'll need here, right? The app ID is the client ID and the client secret is the app secret, right? That's how you set up the trigger there. And then in this case, I have a switch, right? It's basically a router, right? In the first one, I route it. If it's a text, right, I route it one way. And if it's an audio, I send it another way, right? Because if it's an audio, we actually, as you can see here, we first have to download the audio, which again, we do with the WhatsApp business module. Now, this is a different credential type, right? So you can see if for this one, we need the access token and the business account ID. Now, this I also show in my other video how to find this and set this up. So make sure to check that out if you want to connect WhatsApp. Then I download the voice, right? The voice memo. So I just use a simple HTTP request, right, with method get, and then I add in the output of the downloaded file here from WhatsApp Business. So we can't go directly. We first have to download it from the WhatsApp cloud, right? And then we can download it in here. And then we send it over to an OpenAI Whisper model, right, to transcribe a recording, right? And that's how we get the message into our agent, right? Now for the text message, we just set a variable. That's it. That's all this does, to put it as text. That's it. And then we send it over to our agent. Now, let me show you the agent configuration. Now, first of all, we have, it's a tools agent, of course, because we're using tools in this setup. And we have the source for the prompt is defined below, right? And here we have the text, right? So this is basically either the voice message or the text message, right? Which we send over. And then we have a system prompt here, which I can show you quickly, right? You're an AI agent specifically built for handling 3 distinct tasks, and each of the workflows, there are 3 tools to be called. But before you call the tools, here's a few things you keep in mind, right? You have to ask the questions, right? To make sure we get all the information necessary, right? To get the tools, right? That's basically what this prompt does, right? So for the job applied tool, right, we ask him what information we need from the user, right? The resume URL, some additional questions, right? How many jobs would you like to apply to, etc. Again, if you want to look at this in detail, the template will be available in my community. So if you want to check this out in detail, you can check it out there. So then we have the job applying tool, right? Same thing, some extra information. And the contact us form tool, right? Same thing, right? Tool instructions. So we give it a little bit more context on which tool to use when, right? And that's it. And some examples, right? If you want to know my prompt framework, I also have a prompting video on my YouTube channel. So that's it. Then we've connected it to a chat model, which in this case, I connected it to Google Gemini, right? The 2.0 Flash, and to chat memory. In this case, I put it in Postgres database. So we actually have, we can save the data, right, for later. Then we have the 3 tools, right? The job applying tool, the contact us form tool, and the product purchasing tool. Now, these are basically 3 different workflows inside of N8N, right? And we can easily connect those through those workflow input triggers, right? Now, I'm going to show you very quickly how these are set up. So here we just give the name of the tool, right? The description. Now, the description is important. If you're maybe used to Relevance AI, this is basically like the tool description, which describes to your agent what this tool does, right? So it's always important to describe well what this tool does, right, in here. And then we have the input fields here, right? So because we can choose, if we've already made the workflow in N8N, we can choose it in here. So if we select database, right, and here from list, you see that all your tools automatically appear, and then you can just select one, and then your input fields will automatically appear here, right? So first here we have the value, right, and here we have the description, right, the role in this case we're trying to find. Then we have the resume link, which again here is the value, resume link, and drive link provided by the user, right? So we just specify here what the agent has to fill out, right? And again, here we have additional information, all other additional information given by the user, right? Now we have the same for the contact us form, right? So we have name, right? Name of the person, email of the person, additional information, and the query, right? The information about the prospect, like which prospects are we looking for, right? And then lastly, we have the product purchasing tool, which is a little bit different because here we use only a prompt, right? Which we basically let our agent generate the prompt on what to do. So we give it a little bit more flexibility here. So you can see, I'll open it up here quickly. So the user prompt, right? That's going to be the value. The description is, right, detailed user prompt with step-by-step instructions for how to add to cart one or multiple products from Amazon. It can be descriptions. Do not use quotes or anything else. It breaks the JSON. So here, of course, we can also, we can change this, right? It does not necessarily only have to be Amazon, right? But here we give it more flexibility for the browser agent to take his own actions. While in the other ones, we give it specific links with the detailed information. So all it has to do is go to that website, do the thing, and that's it. Now here he has to, of course, reason a lot more and think about what he has to do, right? That's why also it was more expensive, because he had to go through multiple web pages, think if he made the right decisions, etc. So that's it for the 3 tools. Now, here we have connected the job application system, right? So as you can see, it's just a normal workflow automation in N8N, but we can use those as tools, right? So if we have a workflow input trigger, right, here we get the information from our agent, of course, who will fill that out. Then we set the variables, all right? So we have query, resume link, additional information, and proxy location in this case, which we'll need for the Skyvern API call. Right now, this is generally good practice, just so you can easily change it in the future, right? Now, then we have the basic LLM chain. Now, this is just a simple prompt, right? You're well versed with Google search queries, right? Your task is to give a search query to search in Google to find specific job pages, blah, 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 examples, etc. Right now, here we also give, of course, the user input, so it knows what kind of search query to look for. So again, the job details and the type of job we're looking for, right? So this basically gives us a Google search query. Then this HTTP request is the Google SERP API that actually does the Google search, right? Now, if you don't know this, it's pretty easy to set up, right? If you just go to SERP API, yeah, you can use all these Google API services. So Google, in this case, we use Google Search, right? And you can simply connect it with an HTTP request there, right? Now I'm gonna blur this out, but yes. So that's what that tool does. So that will give us a list of results, right, or of Google search results with possible jobs. Then we add those search results into an array, right? And then we split them out one by one, so we can loop over each URL separately, right? Now, in this case, I put a limit in just for the demo, right? But this you can literally take out. So the limit is 3, but you can also even put it as a dynamic field, right? So our agent can actually fill out how many jobs it should apply to, right? Then again, we do an edit fields, right? So again, just to get the job links separated, and then we loop over each of the items, right? And then here we have the Skyvern API call, right? So in this case, we used the V1 actually. So in each of the 3, also, I just wanted to show you, we used a different one. And you can see here we have referenced the specific workflow for the specific workflow of job applying, which I just showed, right? So this is how we reference it. So how do you do this in Skyvern? So if you're in Skyvern, you can first of all get your API key just here by going to settings, right? Which you always need in the header. Right now, if you go here above, you'll see the API docs, right? And here below, you'll see workflows, right? So if you go to running workflows, you'll see that the URL required or the endpoint is going to be, the method is post, and then we need to end it with this, right? Workflows with the workflow permanent ID and then /run. So in this case, my workflow is, I can show you quickly where to find that, right? So in this case, the job application workflow, right? You could just copy and paste this ID, right? And then add it into that endpoint, right? And then add it at the end a /run, right? Then we use for the headers, we use one header, right? The API key, right? Which I just showed you. And then we need to pass in a JSON, right? Now, in this case, we are calling the V1. We could also do it with V2, I think, which is probably better, but it works. So here we have the JSON, right? And you can see we add in the data, right? With the job URLs, now in this case, we add in only one, right? But you can add in an array. Now, these data points are, of course, from our workflow, right? So if I go to the workflow, you can see that we actually passed in variables here, right? So you see we have the job URLs, right? And the resume, right? So we have to actually pass that data in there. Now we do that under the data header, right? As you can see, again, you can check that out detail here in the workflows, right? Where you go to running workflows, and here you'll see the structure, right? So we have the data, and there we pass in the variables we have to pass in for the workflow to run. So in this case, we have the job URLs, the resume, and the additional information, right? And the proxy location is one that you will always need. It's a required or mandatory one by Skyvern. So that's it. That's it for this one. Now for the contact form one, it's a very similar one. As you can see, very similar workflow. But in this case, of course, we start with a few other variables. So we have the input triggers, right? We have the name, the email, the additional information, and the query. We set those variables with the other one, with the proxy location for the HTTP call. And then we have, again, right, the Google search query generator. And in this case, it's going to generate a query to find relevant companies to reach out through the contact form, right? So again, we use the Google Search API to find the URLs, right? We create an array with all the URLs. We split it to be able to loop over them, right? Again, the limit we can delete if we want, but I just set a limit for the demo. And then we have we set the fields for the HTTP call, and then we have the loop over items again. Now in this case, we add in two more steps here. The first one is a simple GET request to basically scrape the website first, right? So all this does is get, we pass in the link of the contact form of the website, right? And we scrape the website. Now, if you want to learn more about scraping, I'm going to release, or I've already released, a full web scraping tutorial on N8N. So if you want to learn more about this, check out that video. Now, this is very simple, right? It's just a HTTP request with a method get and a URL, and it will scrape the website. And then what we do here is a simple code step. And in this code step, we basically use a simple JavaScript to do a regex to basically check if there are any input fields. Right now, I just used ChatGPT to generate this for me, but all this does is it checks if the page has any input fields, because if it doesn't, then of course our browsing agent can't do anything on the website, and we're just wasting credits and money, right? So that's all this step does, right? So you can see, right, has input or text area, right? And if so, right, we have a simple if statement here, right? If it is true, then we send it to the Skyvern agent, right? We send it here to the Skyvern agent. If not, we just loop over it and go for the next URL. Right now, in this case, we've used not a workflow, but just the V1 tasks, right? Which is the more general. We don't have a specific workflow after we call the API, right? So in this case, you can find it also here, right? In the documentation, you see we have the task API. Now, in this case, I used the V1. Now, here you can also see the V1 requirements, right? For the JSON, right? So again, we have, in this case, we have the URL, the navigation goal, right? Data extraction goal, in this case, we don't need, right? The proxy location is mandatory. Again, you can find that here too, what's mandatory, what's not, right? Required. So you can see URL is required and the proxy location is required. And then here in the navigation payload, we can add in the extra information like name and email. So I'll show you how mine is set up. So again, right, only one header with the API key. And then in this case, the JSON is the URL, right? where again, we pass in the URL of the company we want to do the outreach to, right? Then we have the navigation goal, right? Which in this case I fixed here, which is fill out the contact us form and submit it. Your goal is to complete when the page says your message has been sent, right? The proxy location is mandatory. And then we have the navigation payloads where we add in the additional information, the email and the name, right? So the extra data goes here in the navigation payload. So that's it. That's it for this one. And then lastly, we have the purchasing one. Now the purchasing one is a little bit simpler, as you can see, because here we're using the V2. So again, you see all we have here is user prompt, right? So in the V2, you'll see also in the V2 version of the API, all we need to give Skyvern, the browser agent, is a prompt, and he will figure out what to do himself, right? That's also sort of the upgrade for V2. He has more reasoning and planning capabilities, but of course, the more tasks we give him and the more actions he has to take, also the more it's going to cost us, and the more in general, the more unreliable it becomes, the more tasks it has to take, right? So in general, again, it's better to automate everything you can in workflow automation and only the last part into the browsing agent. Now, so in this case, we use the V2, right? And as you can see here in the V2 documentation, you can see that we only need to pass in the user prompt, right? And the proxy location, right? So a lot simpler. So again, we have the API key here, and then for the JSON, it's a lot more straightforward, right? We have the user prompt and the proxy location. That's it. So again, right, because in this one we send our agent only like, okay, find my a cookbook with Italian desserts. It of course has to reason a lot more himself and think through step by step to first type a search query or invent a search query for that specific use case, then check the results, find the right product, then add it to the cart, etc. So it's a nice use case, but of course there's a lot more steps involved too, and therefore the costs are also higher. So that's it. Then of course we send that back. The task is running, right, to the agent, right? So we make sure our agent understands that it ran successfully. So that's it for this video. Probably a little bit more technical than my normal videos. In my normal videos, I will continue keeping it beginner friendly, but I think it was a really interesting use case to show you, and maybe for the more advanced people. Also, the template will be available in my community. We'll probably do a build from scratch, a code build session on this build too, if you want to learn how to build this step by step. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to do my best in answering them. And if you got any value out of this video, I highly appreciate a like and a subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye.